Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. What's up, guys? How you doing? All right, here we go. Business first. Let's get this out of the way. Figure out what we got on the agenda here today. We can chit-chat into the bell a little bit. What's up, guys? How you doing? So at 9 a.m., this is Central Time, as is typical around here. We have U.S. JOLTS job openings and U.S. CB consumer confidence. Okay, now the job openings forecast is 7.5 million. The CB consumer confidence forecast is 88. Now, as far as news, at least during the trading day, I gotta tell you, that's about it. That's about it. We have Visa, Starbucks earnings after the bell. Trump is speaking in Michigan at 3:10. That's about it here for today. So we'll keep an eye out at 9 a.m. for some volatility. Now, that volatility is likely to cause, I would probably bet we're looking at maybe 3 minutes of volatility out of those two numbers. So by 9:05-ish, this should be clear. And we should be ready to go. So I'm not against putting a trade on between 8:45 and like 8:55 if we happen to get one. But otherwise, we'll have to hold off around that 9 o'clock region, just because news is, it's always going to be 50-50 as far as market volatility. All right, guys, how we doing? Good morning. Jude Mitz, Kings, what's up? Welcome back. Gossi, how you doing? Step, what's up? Rick, Old School, Keith, Gibbs, Maury, Sonia, how you doing? Trick Biscuit, what's up? Welcome back. Scooby, Lee, TC, what's up, guys? How we doing? Jecto, Lucas, Pat, Zachary, Dan, Starbuck, Christian, John, Simple Trader, good morning. Exposed, welcome back. How you doing? Clinton, good morning. Kale, what's up, guys? A lot of regulars popping in. Good to see you guys. Chris, good morning. Michael, Twelst, what's going on? All right, guys, we are about 3 minutes out here from the bell. We're going to see what we get. Now, let's take a look at the market to kick us off. So we're down about 100 points, about 0.5%, no big deal. Now, again, we're not really seeing a sustained dump off here into the open. But had we seen that, again, usually continuation on whatever move occurs into the open is about 50-50. Okay, so those institutional orders will come in, they'll clear within 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're all set. So the schedule here is 8:30, of course, bell rings. And then 8:45, those institutional orders will have cleared. From 8:45 to 8:55, I'll be looking to put on setups if the market gives us anything. And then 8:55 to 9:05, we'll be thinking about that news that we get at 9. And after 9:05, from 9:05 to 11, we are free and clear to trade to our heart's content. So that's what we're doing here today. Savan, welcome back. Patel, hey. Kev. Peter, higher high, what's up? Welcome back. Session, how you doing? Rufio, Christian, John. Good morning, everybody. Good times. Good morning. All right, 2 minutes out here. 2 minutes out. Never gets old, does it? Now, number one concern for me here today, I'm thinking about that ATR. Okay, well, actually, what we should do here that we haven't done yet is we should look at the market inertia, right? So, yesterday morning, if you guys recall, we talked about how these two bars had me thinking, you know, looking at also the last couple of weeks, and then you look at these two. So that would be Thursday and Friday of last week. Again, this is the New York session, so today's candle on the daily is not opened yet, so this candle here is yesterday's. So, yesterday morning, we came in and we were talking about how, okay, well, we're clearly in a range market. However, I'm thinking about the possibility of trends based on Thursday and Friday's bars. I'm thinking the same thing here today, but again, leaning back a little bit more toward range days. Okay, that's the market inertia. Doesn't mean we can't see a trend day, by the way. It just means that probability-wise, I mean, it's hard to argue that probability-wise we're leaning in favor of another range day here today. The market tends to do what it's been doing until it then changes. When it changes, by the way, it's our job as traders, if we want to make money, to recognize that as quickly as possible, ideally within a day or two. that the market has shifted to more of a trend market or vice versa. Okay, but right now we're clearly in a range market with the potential, a lower probability granted, but the potential's on the table that we end up seeing a little trend based on Thursday and Friday's bars. But again, I'm coming into today thinking range day, which for me, what does that mean? It means channel scalps are on the agenda if we get any. There's the opening bell. Let's see what we get. So channel scalps on the agenda if we get any. And then in addition to that, I'm looking for continuation inside of the range, which is what we've taken the last few days. All right. Well, as far as accounts, here's what we're trading today, by the way, just so you know what we're looking at. That size column, that's based on a 1 micro base. Okay, so each X is how many micros that account will be trading here today. So we're actually up in, I believe, 3 of the Apex accounts. I've sized up from yesterday to today. 3, maybe 3 or 4, from 2 to 3. Okay, I plenty of buffer. You guys know I prefer to scale horizontally, stay small per account. So we're not trading big per account, but you don't have to. Chris, good morning. How you doing? Traded from the car today, huh? All right, again, if you're just joining us here today, the only news really on the agenda is 9 o'clock. Jolt's job openings and CB consumer confidence. That's Central Time, 9 o'clock. So adjust for your time zone, of course. But here off the open, we're attempting to push through that 20 EMA on the 2-minute, and now we're testing the 20 on the 5. Getting rejected so far, but this opening candle here, the range on this is very tight. It's only about 40 points. Now, yesterday's opening 2-minute bar was 43 points. That was the range on yesterday's opening 2-minute. So that had me a little worried. If you guys recall yesterday's stream, I was thinking, man, if this thing falls off the ATR, which is the average range, right, to, 11 points by 10 a.m., we might be in trouble finding setups. But it didn't. It held on. It was 25, 30 point ranges into, 10:30 a.m. Central, which was beautiful to see. So that range expanded a little bit there on the end of that bar. Now 45 on that range if you look up top here. That yellow bar on the bottom. That's the range of that opening bar of the day. So 44.5 points is the range there. So hopefully we can sustain a decent ATR throughout the session here. Again, my ideal range is going to be somewhere between 25 and 70. 70 starts to get a little bit high. But if we can sustain 25 to 50, I'm happy. Now again, most of these orders coming off the open, these are institutional orders, and their agenda is not necessarily today. Their agenda is this week, 3 weeks out, 2 months out. So it's really, really tough to find edge trading the open. That's been my experience. If you have an edge off the open, don't let me tell you not to trade it. But in my experience, it's hard to make the data look good when 95% of your competition is trading based on something entirely other than what you're trading off of. So I let those clear. A couple more 2-minute bars, and we'll be good to go. All right, what are you guys trading today? Are you guys doing evals? Funded? What's up? Scrumptious, good morning. Blader XFA as usual. Man, we are moving here. Joel, do mix of both, evals and funded? Michael looking for day 3 funded. Cool. Evals, funded, and eval. Debo. JM still trading personal. King's personal. Sandra's trading evals. Jude trading the Qs. Pat evals. Christian funded. Peasy funded. Cameron, using code BIG to start my Apex accounts. Cool. Cool. Yeah, the nice thing about those Apex accounts is you can pass in one day if you want to trade them aggressively. Again, I don't necessarily encourage that you try to pass the Apex evals in one day. But the deeper you get into this, the more money you're taking in payouts, there's opportunity costs to think about. So I prefer to just trade the Apex ones aggressively. They're inexpensive enough where I don't, it doesn't impact the business model if you spend a little bit more on evals at some point. But listen, in the early days, you should take a little bit of time in the evals just to make sure you have an edge, and then once you get funded, it'll be off to the races. Doug, good morning. Lost funded today will be evals. All right, we'll get back funded. All right, into 835 territory here. Volatility is not crazy off the open here. But again, as long as we sustain that, then it doesn't matter. By the way, if you are a little bit newer around here, just to repeat myself, I suppose, in this market, guys, I really would love to see everybody running live stop orders. If you're somebody who typically trades naked, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. I think there's a time and place to trade naked, especially in a range-bound market where there's really no news driving the market. But right now, even though it is kind of a range-bound market, there's a lot of risk of unexpected tariff news hitting, and you can get a 300, 400, 500 point bar out of nowhere. And if you're trading without a live stop order, that can kill your day, that can kill your week, your month, maybe. So use live stops, ideally, in this market. You can always take them off if you don't like to. Again, I think there's a time and place for some traders to trade without a stop if you're responsible in managing risk manually. But right now, I don't think is that time and place. Higher high. What account are you trading? Need a little bit more detail, and then I can answer that for you. And I assume you're talking the eval, right? Yeah, for the Apex 25K, once you hit the $1,500 profit target in the eval, quit touching the account. Leave it alone. And at the start of the next trading day, or usually it's the end of the current trading day, you'll get an you'll get an email from Apex, and they'll automatically send you the link to pay the activation fee and all that. So once you hit that profit target, really in any, but especially in the Apex evals, quit touching the account. It's done. Take Profit Trader is a little bit different, but yeah, so with Take Profit Trader, you have to trade for at least 5 days. All I can tell you is what I do, not necessarily that this is the best way to go about it, but here's what I do for the Take Profit ones. I just try to hit 50%, and again, this is a mental capital opportunity costs thing. I just try, whatever the profit target is, let's say for the 150K accounts, you have to hit 9,000. But you can't have more than 50% of your profit come from any one day. So if I'm starting, let's say I start a new 150K test at Take Profit Trader, I would try to hit 4,500 bucks in profit day 1. If I do, day 2, I'd try to hit 4,500 bucks in profit. And then day 3, 4, and 5, I would just either try to make up whatever I still have to make up to hit the target, and I would just flip contracts on the days where I don't need to do anything. I would just flip 1 micro to count it as a trading day until I get to 5, and then they activate it. Obviously, the other way to do that is to try to hit 20% of the profit goal each day of 5 days. However, I don't like to allocate that much personal capital for 5 days. I'd rather just kind of trade it for 2 and then not think about it for the rest of the 3 when I'm just flipping. Plus, if you end up having a red day or a break-even day or whatever, that gives you another opportunity the next day to try to make that up. All right, there is 8:40. So we can kind of start watching for setup development. Again, we have news at 9, but I'm open to putting something on. At this time of day, I know my average trade duration, so I'm open to putting something on between 8:45 and 8:55, even though we have news at 9, because I have a reasonable expectation that I'd be out by the time that news even really comes into play. But we have to get a setup, of course. So if we do in that window of 10 minutes, then I'll put it on. Otherwise, we're waiting until 9:05 once that news clears out. But let's see what we can get between now and then. Good morning, Clark. What's up? Debo was $12.50 away, $1,250 away from my first ever payouts on 2 accounts yesterday. Got excited and greedy. Didn't follow my, this is very common. Didn't follow my rules, blew them both up. Lesson learned, sticking to the plan is so important. In a funded account, I highly encourage you guys to not look at the balance. Just trade small, take good trades, check up on the balance every few days. You know, you're gonna know if you're getting to a payout. Just take good trades. What a lot of people do is, like, let's say they're using a Rhythmic Apex account. They'll have the Rhythmic window open off to the side, and they're checking it all day while they're in trades. I think that's just mental capital that you could allocate toward taking good trades. But you know what, Debo? It happened. Move on. Lesson learned. The beautiful thing about trading is that for most people, for almost everybody, unless you're like some billionaire's son who goes and blows money trying to learn how to day trade, for basically all of us, the mistakes you make early on are going to be way smaller than the reward you're able to generate once the experience is in place and you're scaling. That's the nice thing about trading, is that even if you mess up big in the early days, that's still small compared to where you're trying to go. So you can kind of outgrow your mistakes, if that makes sense, once you have an edge. Ideally, you want to keep those mistakes as small as possible, which is why I encourage you to trade small, get the edge, and then you have even more room to scale in the black, so to speak, rather than just making up your mistakes. What's up, Pumple? Welcome. Superfly, welcome back. Eric, what's up? How you doing? All right, so you guys see we're kind of trading sideways here. 100% sideways here off the open, essentially. We'll see if we can get some kind of either channel or a little breakout continuation setup going. Because with this volatility as low as it is off the open, I'm very much so open to continuation setups if we break out of this little range here in the next 12 minutes. Mitts, got affordable indicators set up. Cool, but again, I don't have any affiliation with them. I just like the copy trader. Do you use executions or orders? I use executions because the difference is orders is like using limit orders across all the accounts. Executions is just, it triggers market orders when your leader executes an order. Yeah, Christopher, he's a good guy. I've talked to him as well. Now, for those of you guys who are using a copy trader, especially hooked into Ninja, any copy trader, make sure you're aware that Ninja has a problem on their end. None of the copy traders have been able to fix it because this is a Ninja trader issue. You guys, I know a lot of you guys, not a lot, some of you guys have asked questions about, like, when I say, okay, I gotta flatten after I get hit out on a trade. And it's like, well, don't you have, like, why aren't they all flat? Aren't the orders out on every count? Well, here's what happens. To answer that reasonable question, what happens is when it hits me out, I'm all out in almost every case. There's been a couple of times where that wasn't true, but in almost every case, I'm actually all flat. But when I say I need to flatten, what's really going on is 1 or 2 or 3 of the accounts have what's called a ghost position in NinjaTrader that's feeding in and displaying in the copy trader. It's not a real position. So you guys notice that when I say flatten, I have to flatten, and I click the flatten button in the copier. Like, you'll especially see this in the trade, in like the recap videos where I show you guys the live trades, the videos that I upload to the channel most evenings. When I hit the flatten, it flips me the opposite direction. I have to hit the button twice. And the reason is because it's not a real position, the first one. Okay, but the only way to clear it is to flatten, which, let's say I'm long one share and I press flatten, what does it do? Well, it tries to sell, or I'm sorry, if I'm long like 4 micros, let's say. And then I press flatten, what does it do? It sells 4 micros to flatten me. But I had no position, so now I'm sitting short 4 micros. And then I have to actually flatten. So, huge problem in NinjaTrader. I'm watching this setup, by the way. We're a minute 15 out. If we get a nice close near the high of this bar, I would need it to grow after that breakout bar. But this bar as it sits right now is too small. I would need this bar to grow. So that's what happens when I say flatten. Really what I'm doing is I'm clearing the NinjaTrader error that they still haven't fixed for some crazy reason. But that's what's going on. To explain what happens there. Just something you got to deal with. We all deal with it. By the way, this is a very well-known issue in the prop trading world for people who use NinjaTrader. Okay, so take a look down here. I'm looking at this little high, pre-market. Now, it's a pre-market level, so there's not going to be a million stops there, but I am watching that region for some stops that I could potentially do some stop hunting on. So we are 17 seconds out here from the close of this 2-minute bar. We're 12 plus minutes out from the news, so I will buy this rollover if we get a nice close near the high without a wick back before the rollover. I'll give it 15 seconds. We got a bit of a wick back here. I'm going to leave that alone. No trade for me there. We got a little bit of a wick back at the last second on that 1 bar. It wasn't crazy. In that case, I'll give it 15 seconds to watch how the open of the next 2-minute bar develops. This one pulled right back. There's a risk there, so I'm going to leave that. Discretionary call. Jeremy, if it's a ghost order, if you reboot NinjaTrader, does it fix it? Well, you know, yes, in theory, it probably would fix it. But I gotta tell you, I'd rather maybe just take a little hit, flipping myself the opposite direction and closing instantly and paying those commissions. I'd kind of rather just do that than sit here and try to reboot NinjaTrader. And then, oh, wait, 1 out of every 10 times I open NinjaTrader and it's, oh my goodness, it was a real position. And it's gone 50 points against me. To me, I don't think that, I don't want to be sitting here with a potential position on, even if most of the time they're ghost positions, without the platform open. Josh! Yeah, you're looking at the right thing. So pre-market descending resistance. Yeah, so what Josh is looking at here is this. Again, I don't put a ton of weight on pre-market levels. So again, don't overthink the level. But Josh is kind of looking right here, which is reasonable. That makes sense, okay? But that's not something that I would just like short. So we're gonna watch how this this bar develops, but this one's about to roll over here in 12 seconds. And then this next bar will be interesting. But you know, you can see here, oh, look at that move. There we go, we just get a headline. Nothing coming through for me quite yet. Look at this wiki movement here. See, that wick was so aggressive. This happens a lot between Thinkorswim and Ninja. I'm seeing a 4-point difference on the high of that bar. Thinkorswim is displaying the high as a 546. Ninja is displaying it as 550. Yeah, China's waving some tariffs. Yep, this is the MNQ chart on NinjaTrader. They're going to be pretty damn close, MNQ and NQ. All right, here we go. Very clearly an attempt at a reversal out of the bears. Let's see if they can. And by the way, if they can get 3 consecutive bars with a nice growing bear bar closing on the low at the 3rd bar, I would sell that rollover. However, time's flying here. It's almost 8:53, and my cutoff here would be 8:55. News at 9. Zachary, yes and no. I've had no issues, 0. But I'm also careful when I request. I make sure that the 30% rule has been followed. Listen, guys, I think a lot of people that have issues getting payouts. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I don't want to paint with a broad brush. I'm sure some people have had weird problems. But a lot of people who say, prop trading's a scam, Apex, they screw you. Well, I think most of these people aren't paying attention to the rules. I mean, again, maybe you've had an issue where you were 100% in the right and they denied you. I'm sure that's happened to some people. But most of the people complaining are probably missing a rule or a few of the rules. Because Apex lets you request a payout if you've had your 8 trading days, if you're above the buffer, they let you request. But if you've broken a rule here or there, it does just because they let you request doesn't mean that they are going to approve you necessarily, because you may have still broken a rule. Like the 30% or the 5-to-1 risk reward. So I build that all into my trading. I make sure I'm not breaking the 5-to-1. I do the math on the 30% before I ever request a payout. And I've had no issues. Take Profit Trader is even smoother. I've had one issue with Take Profit Trader, and that has been the the balance. I'm missing some money in my two 150Ks. That should be there. I'm missing some profits. But I'm just waiting on a response from, that's the only problem I've had with them, and I'm sure they'll fix it. Speaking of which, I just got an email for my Take Profit withdrawal. It's a beauty. I requested withdrawals from my Take Profit Trader accounts this morning about 6 a.m. and they just got approved, and now I can move them to my bank account. That's the beauty of Take Profit Trader, by the way. 30% off, no activation fee, same day payouts. Use code BIG. It's pinned at the top of chat. All right, we got news here in 4 minutes. Good morning, Jet. What's up? How you doing? Christopher, got approved for the first payout and didn't run into any issues through Apex. Love it. Cool, man. Good work. Good work. Yeah, once Apex approves your payout, which can take like a few days, then after another couple of days, usually you get an email that says, hey, your money's been sent, and then another few days later, it's in your account. So it's definitely slower to get your money than Take Profit Trader, but Apex is great for its own reasons. You can scale to 20 accounts. It's just a trade-off, which is why I prefer to use both. I don't think I'd want to fly without either one. All right, let's get this news out of the way here, and then we can kind of trade freely. So we got news in 2.5 minutes here. Again, Jolt's job openings, forecast is 7.5 million. CB consumer confidence, forecast is 88. All right, 2 minutes out from the news hitting. Skeptic. I have, my experience with Tradeify, I guess no would be the right answer to your question. I don't think I've ever traded a Tradeify account, but that's my next stop. Once I max out these guys, or at least, I don't know, once I'm looking to branch out to a third, then Tradeify is my next stop. But right now, my two favorites are Apex and Take Profit. I think these two are, well, they're my favorites. All right, 60 seconds out from our news hitting here. I would want to be flat. $20 seconds. I'll have the news result here for you as soon as I get it. Great timing. I think financial juice just went down. Oh, goodness. Seems like their servers might be overloaded. Everyone trying to check the news here. Yeah, there you go. They're dropping it in the chat. You guys got it. All right, CB Consumer Confidence came in at 86 versus 88. There we go. Jolt shop opening 7.192 million. Forecast was 7.5 million. All right, so that's out of the way. Again, that usually causes volatility for a couple minutes tops. Then it fades out, and then we can start trading again. Sean, good morning. How you doing? Scooby, hey Nico, is it best to not trade an Apex account while waiting on payout approval? Yeah, if you wanted to leave it alone, you probably could. I don't know. I usually just trade them, but probably leaving them alone is the best bet. The reason you would want to leave it alone, by the way, is if in case you have a big red day or something, and it's before they got to it, and then they check the account and the balance is way off. It's way less than what you requested or something. That's why you might want to leave it alone. I usually just trade through. But yeah, once it's approved, you're good to go. But I usually just keep trading, to be honest with you. Again, I can only tell you what I do. Nico was taking the long trade on the close of the 844 bar a little risky. Well, I waited till 845. So that would have been, I know what you're looking at, by the way. Bo is looking right, here. Why didn't you, buy this? And first of all, it was the first breakout bar. This bar, I believe, closed at 846. Yeah. So could I have taken that? Technically, it would have been pushing it. So I waited till the next bar. And then we got close, but that next bar was the bar that I just barely had to hold off on. Which, by the way, had we taken that trade and I bought this rollover, I probably would have gotten filled like here, 513. Target would have been about 553. I'd still be in that trade. Actually, yeah, that likely would have been a stop out. So that discretionary call to hold off on that was the right call in hindsight. Not that it really matters. Quicksilver's been in the trenches shorting gold. I think every time Quicksilver pops back into the chat, he's added another 0 to his net worth. All right, we're into 904 territory. So this bar here will close at 906, which means that I'm free to trade as I please at this point. Nothing's holding us back now. That news is clear. The volatility from the news, I would argue, is pretty much clear. So we're ready to rock. Tubed, what's up? Doc, good morning. How are you guys doing? All right, this bar rolls over here in 60 seconds. And looking at everything here, I'll be open to buying that close if we get a nice growing bull bar and a close near the high. Obviously, I need to clear that previous wick. Okay, I don't want it to grow too much, though. I need it to be reasonable. All right, bulls, calm down. Calm down. Oh, man, we're pushing now. We're pushing. I don't like big outsized bars. I see the bulls calm down here. We're coming right into that high that we saw pre-market. Not too big of a deal. Okay, 15 seconds out. Range on this bar, if you look here at the 5-minute, range on this bar is about 50 points. We're getting a bit of a wick back here. Yeah, bears are wicking this back. I'm ready to go, though. Okay, no trade there. Bears wicked that back a little too aggressively for me. That would be a rule break, so I got to hold off there. Next bar becomes very interesting for me. Same concept here. Same concept. Just looking for a nice equal-sized bull bar closing at or very near the high, but it cannot be massively outsized compared to the recent volatility. Needs to be within reason, otherwise you tempt a snapback way too much. 19,600. Gonna be a tier 3 level, not too concerned of that on its own. Minute 15 out from the close of this 2-minute. All right, now yesterday's high, we have 55 seconds. Yesterday's high is 19,623. Ooh, interesting. Friday's high was 19,563, which we've already cleared. I'm talking New York session, by the way. So yesterday's New York session high was 19,623. Interesting. If we got to close right around 19.6, I would still take this. We have 30 seconds. Let's see if we get something. We're still wicking back a little bit. 15 seconds to clean this up. I would need to see the bulls take this higher in the last couple seconds here. Nothing. There's the rollover. Nothing. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Can't take it. Jeremiah, what are the tier levels? S tier, 20,000, 15,000, 25,000. Tier 1, 19,000, 18,000, 17,000, 21,000. Tier 2, 19,500, 18,500, 25. 20,500, that is. 21,500. Tier 3, 19,600, 19,300, 19,100. And tier 4 are the 50s. So like 19,150, 19,250, 21,250. Those are the tier levels. Tier 3, Tier 4, market doesn't pay too much attention to. With each additional tier, I pay a little bit more attention to the level itself. Now you guys see here, we got that shrinking slightly, but it was shrinking bull body with that wick back. We got a wick back, closed still above the high of the previous bar. But we wicked back on a shrinking bull body. I can't buy that rollover because, you know, the bears are trying to create some kind of reversal sequence. Even though the reversal sequence itself is not super high probability yet, I see that they're attempting it, and they're succeeding slightly with a shrinking bull body. That's why I had to hold off there. Can't take that. That would not be a good trade for me. All right, here's the bear attempt at a reversal sequence. Let's see if they can actually put something together. Again, this is one of those scenarios where it's lower probability but higher reward to risk as it sits right now for bears. Low probability, higher reward to risk. All right, I'm going to be back in 2 minutes and grab coffee while this works itself out. All right, we're back. And the market did nothing except trying to put in a little ascending channel here, which I'm watching. So if we can put in a nice, clean ascending channel, then I will happily buy that support once we get 3 touch points. Trick Biscuit. Nico, when you see a rollover like a doji candle, for instance, do you count that as 1 bar out of the 3 bars you are waiting for? Discretionary call. However, yes, I will. If we see, yeah, so what you're asking, if we see a reversal sequence and the first bar is a doji, I will count that if the following 2 are clean. Alright, so now we're watching that 20 EMA on the 2 minute, but mostly on the 5 minute. That 5 minute 20 EMA is right at 19.5. Really 19.498. So I would need some room there. I prefer when those 20 EMAs just start lining up so it creates one level. Otherwise, it creates a weird kind of gap scenario where I have to time my trade just right. It makes it a little more difficult to structure the trade. Not that I care as much about the 20 on the 2. It's not as much of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's far more heavily watched on the 5 minute. But I still consider it on the 2 just for context. Bull's trying to make a little push. You guys can see here we're 20 points away from the break-even point on the day on the Nasdaq. So I would love to see us just get clear of this, because again, that break-even point has been just a pain lately these last like 3 weeks. Market can never seem to make a decision around that level, and then it just sticks to it. There's a big doji, look at that. It's a big indecisive bar, huh? Okay, now what I prefer to do here, let's take a look at this. Now this is not set in stone, okay? This is just potentially developing. I prefer to draw my trend lines as obvious as I can, meaning what would other people draw? If you just showed them this chart and said, hey, draw the line. But I also am looking for 3 touch points, and I like to draw it as not aggressive as I possibly can. So you could, you know, I know a lot of people would come in here and probably draw it like this. That wouldn't be wrong at all. But those are so aggressive, I have a hard time even utilizing those because it's tough to buy such an aggressive line. So I'd probably draw the developing trend line like that, but really this is only, I would call, the second touch point. So again, that's not set in stone. But I'm just curious if that becomes something. All right, there's the attempt of the break. See if the bears can take out this little developing, again, not set in stone yet, trend line. Testing the 20 on the 2. Fear and greed index just hit. Again, not that we can do much with that, but it's interesting to track. 36 out of 100 indicating fear. A couple weeks ago, that was in the extreme fear region. All right, now again, the 20 on the 5 minute. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, the 20 on the 5 minutes down here right at 19.5. So let's delete this, clean this up as we go. Okay, this is a beauty. Now, if we could get a rollover of this bar in 30 seconds from now, I would honestly prefer to see my entry on the next bar. Otherwise, to get this one as low as I would need it to go to enter, it would then become an outsized bar and render my trade well, I wouldn't be able to take it. Okay, testing 19.5. Again, tier 2 level there. I'm thinking about it. It's aligning with the 20 on the 5. Okay, here's the rollover. Now this bar here could become an entry bar for me if we see a reasonably sized, it doesn't have to meet the size of this because this one was so outsized, a reasonably sized bear bar where it's not clearly shrinking with a close at or near the low of the bar. And you can see here we have this wick, maybe a few stops down there. This was such a quick wick that I wouldn't expect so many stops to be loaded up, but hey, it doesn't hurt because those would be sell market stops. That would be a beauty. If I get a close right around 470, I'd 100% sell that roller. We have a minute and 18 seconds to clean this up. Bull's trying to bounce it here off the 5-minute 20 EMA. So we have 27 seconds left here. Bull's not allowing too much to happen. Now, by the way, we just cleared that break-even point, so we're now sitting just barely red 20 points on the day in the Nasdaq. That break-even point, again, tends to cause some trouble here in the last month or so, 3 weeks. So I prefer to just clear that and be done. Alright, yeah. So if we can get a push there. We have 45 seconds left on this 2-minute bar. A nice close, rollover, nice push, and a close probably through this wick. I'd love to be able to hunt the low-a-day stops. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to do that if we got the opportunity. I don't know if we're going to get a hard enough push. We'll take it as it comes here. The bulls are still trying to hold the 5-minute 20 EMA. That's what's hanging this up, along with tier 2 level 19.5. All right, now a reasonably low close here. Listen, would this be a textbook continuation setup for me? No, not textbook, but a reasonably low growing bear bar here with a nice clean close. It'd have to be a very clean close. And I would go ahead and put this on here. We have 55 seconds here to clean this up. But I would need this to be very clean. We have that big sequence broken up by a single bear bar. I'm sorry, a single bull bar. We're now breaking beneath the 20 EMA on the 5. And we have this little wick. Again, I would not expect a million stops here because it was such a quick wick. But there's going to be some bulls placing stops right around, 465. So I am interested here, but it would need to be clean. Let's see. 20 seconds. Bulls wicking this back up. We got 11 seconds here to clean this up. There we go. There's a push. All right, and I'll put that on. So I'm now sitting short. Okay, average price, 19,479. Stop up at 19,519. Take profit down at 19,439. I'll break even, couple points in the money. Now again, remember, we got that 20 EMA on the 5-minute chart just below now 19.5. My stop is up at 19.519. Okay, this all goes into planning. Structuring a trade is a mix of robotic and discretionary. Okay, so here we are, retesting the 5-minute 20 EMA. See if the bears can push this lower through that little wick here. And looking for a few stops, help push me a little deeper into the money. And then targets down at 39. Just a couple points in the red as it sits. All right, there's the rollover. You guys see that on the 5-minute? We rolled over just below the 20 EMA on the 5. So those bulls are really holding on to the hope that they hold that 20 EMA on the 5. We'll see if they can here. All right, nearing that stop. I'm sitting 28 points in the red, 30 points in the red. Again, stop at 519. It's just above the 20 EMA on the 2. Likely to get stopped out here on this trade. Still in for now. All right, we will. We'll take a stop there. Let's make sure I'm flat. Okay, there we go. Flat there. We are down 1 hour, starting the day in the red. That's okay. Let's see what else we can grab. Again, now we're 12 points away from that break-even point here on the day, which is kind of a pain. I'd really like to see this market just clear the break-even and the 5-minute 20. All right, this region here, so what I'm thinking, this is really an interesting region, kind of a frustrating region. We're right at 19.5. On its own, it's not that big of a deal, tier 2 level, but it's there. 20 EMA on the 2, again, on its own, not really that big of a deal, but it's there. The 5-minute 20 EMA is a bigger deal. Heavily watched, and we're now 10 points away from the break-even point on the day in the Nasdaq as a whole, which is a big deal. At least lately. So I want to see us. Again, I don't care if we go up or down here. I really don't care at all. I just want to see us clear this region, put some distance in between us and this region, and then give me a little setup. All right, here's the break-even point, 0% as it sits. All right, so we are now looking at, we're 55 seconds out from the close of this 2-minute bar. We're looking at a reversal sequence. If we can put some more distance, again, we're right at the break-even point here. But a lot can change in the next 45 seconds. I gotta see how this bar closes. But I gotta tell you, it could end up being a setup for me. We'll see how it closes here. 15 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna hold off. Now what I'm looking at here is, I gotta tell you, I need more information, because I'm a little concerned that this becomes a thing. You see, this is very common when you get this push up out of the open. What we've been seeing a lot lately is a little descending channel for a period of time, and then it breaks one way or the other. So I need one more bar. The one more bar in the favor of this setup, and I will put it on, because then that breaks really that hope. And I could use the high a day to stop hunt. There we go. Nice clean push. Out of the bulls, we got 53 seconds until the close of this bar. High of day up at 19.6. This could be a beauty of a setup for me. Just need to see a nice close out of the bulls at the high of this bar or very near it. 30 seconds out. All right, bulls, hold us high, 15 seconds. Can't see it wick back like this. Gotta see the bulls take us a little bit higher. Got 5 seconds. Ugly wick. Ugly wick, shrinking bull body. Gotta hold off. That's too bad. That's too bad. That was a clean setup aside from that. All right, next bar, same idea applies. All right, now remember, yesterday's New York session high was 19,623. We got 60 seconds until the close of this 2-minute bar. Same idea applies here. Look to buy the rollover. If we can get a nice bull bar that isn't shrinking here, which currently it is, compared to the previous bar. Then I could stop hunt those high of day stops. Help me push a little deeper into the money, ideally up toward target before we hit yesterday's high of day. We have 30 seconds though for the bulls to show some backbone. Let's see if they can show up. Not able to so far. Nice shrinking bull body here. Nothing there. Too bad. Too bad. Gotta wait for a good setup. Okay, now... Same idea applies on this bar. It wouldn't, however, if I didn't have the stop hunting mentality. However, you can see here with these, here, take a look. With these 2-minute bars, growing bull bodies, shrinking, doji, attempt at a reversal. This is clearly a reversal attempt out of the bears. Again, this is one of those low probability, high reward risk scenarios for bears. Okay, so we'll see if they can make something of that. Pumple, Nico, how did you come up with the 40-point take profit stop loss? By the way, it's not set in stone, guys. It's just what you've seen me doing in the current market. Why isn't it 50, for example? Is there a particular reason, or 30? I just take, okay, what's the ATR Ben? All right, and then which ratio puts me kind of in the slot of what my average trade duration, you know, where I'm not getting just chopped out, but the trades aren't taking, on average, half an hour plus. Yeah, I like to be in that, you know, couple of minute, like inside of the same bar, up to 15 minutes range. Some of them will go longer, of course. You guys have seen that. But for the most part, I'm well within that range as far as average trade duration at 40.40 in the current market. Now, if that changes, by the way, and volatility dies way off, and I have to, and the average trade is now taking 37 minutes, then I'd tighten up. I'd size up and I'd tighten up. But I very much so prefer to trade small and wide if the market allows for it. But that's still scalping. That doesn't make it not scalping. For me, scalping is anything under an hour, 30 minutes really on average, which I'm well within. All right, you see here, this bear attempt at a reversal sequence. I really think one of the biggest problems that most people have trading the Nasdaq is everyone's scared to lose money. So everyone wants to risk as little as possible, right? That's only natural, it makes sense. But I see people with 5-point stops on the Nasdaq. That's chop out territory. That's bleed out by 1,000 paper cuts territory. The Nasdaq moves 5 points on nothing in half a second. You gotta give yourself some time to be right, even as a scalper. Some room to be right. If you're gonna be wrong, you wanna have actually been wrong. Like I was wrong on that first trade of the day, right? I mean, again, would I take that trade again? Yeah. Was it the best trade I've ever put on? Of course not. No, it wasn't the cleanest trade ever, but I would put it on again. Happened to be a loser. I was wrong. I didn't get chopped out. I was wrong. Now, it's really easy to let the emotions get the best of you if you're wrong because you're getting chopped out. Not because you were actually just wrong. Right? So 5 points is too tight on the Nasdaq in almost every case. Now, I mean, you guys kind of see, remember, not that long ago, we were talking about this. You get this upside move, oftentimes lately has turned into a little descending channel for a while. Now, this has barely any touch points. It's just very wide. Okay, but that was my primary concern. This kind of thing starting to form on, I believe it was this bar. Okay, so I had to hold off, and we ended up seeing that kind of form. And it would have been before I hit target, by the way. But I'm open to that changing at any time. I don't care. Alright, we've got a minute 30 until the close of this 2-minute bar. I would need 3 consecutive in this sideways chop that we're seeing. A really good rule of thumb, by the way, that I think this will help you guys out a lot. If you're ever looking at the chart and you're kind of like confused. Not confused, like you know what's going on, but you're having a hell of a time finding setups. Kind of like right here. Chances are you're in a trading range. Even if you don't necessarily see the trading range, chances are, if you're looking at the chart and you are like struggling to find a setup, like kind of like I am right now, you're in a trading range even if it hasn't developed yet. Now you can break out of that in 2-minute bars, which is kind of what I'm watching for. But that's an easy rule of thumb that's almost always correct. Honestly, I hope that breaks, because that's our quickest path to a setup is if that trend line breaks. But if it holds, fine. I would just need, for me to take a short off that, I would need to see at least one more deeper pullback. These little pullbacks are weak. Weak. Yep, the Jack just passed 53K to get past the buffer on Apex funded. Awesome, good work. And right here, all I'm looking for is either a deeper pullback. Top right of your screen is what I'm looking at, that 2-minute chart. Is either a deeper pullback to more set in stone, this descending resistance, or more ideally, a break upside is the quickest path to another trade here for me. All right, this needs a second to work itself out. I'll be right back. All right, here is another test of that resistance. We're not getting those deeper pullbacks, which makes it tough to short that when you're getting soft little rejections. A lot of times that attempts just break upside, which I would be cool with either way. Okay, Apex activation fees. We're getting questions about that. So the eval fee is going to be different depending on the account size. Once you pass, if you used code BIG, all the accounts are $85 a month or $130 lifetime. It used to be $125. They recently, I guess, raised it to $130. So I don't know. I still prefer to go lifetime, just because my average account is going to last far longer than what the monthly makes sense. Okay, here's a breakout attempt. So we're going to close this 2-minute bar in 45 seconds. I will remove this because I like to clean up as we go, though a back test is never off the table of that previous trend line. And we'll see if we can get a nice clean rollover here, a nice clean close on the next 2-minute bar, and then that would be a buy setup for me. We're coming right into the high of day, by the way. Right around 19.6. All right, there's the rollover, clean rollover. Let's see if we can get a nice bull push here as well. Now, obviously, unfortunately, this takes out, because I have to wait for a second bar now. We're really a third bar. This would take out my stop hunting mentality out of the setup. However, if it's a clean continuation setup on its own, that's plenty for me. Of course, I love having the stop hunting mentality involved, but I can't take a setup early just so I can try to hunt these stops. Setup's just not there yet. All right, there's a good push through the high. New high of day there. At least after the bell. Well, Bear's trying to wick this back here, not really letting the Bulls play. Captain Jack. Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. Listen, we can sit here and force trades all day for the sake of entertainment. But at the end of the day, if you're here to be entertained more than you're here to try to provide and make some money and maybe do a little better for your family, then you're probably at the wrong spot. We're here to ideally do both. But can't lose sight of the focus here. All right, Bear's attempting another little reversal sequence here. I just want to see a breakout so we can get some kind of setup rocking and rolling. But again, what do we say? Coming into the day, likely to be a range day, right? So can't be surprised. This market is really struggling at this high of day. 19.6 was the previous high of day. We just broke it by maybe 5 or 10 points. Pulling back and struggling around 19.6. ATR right now is at 25, which is really the low end of my my ideal region. Again, my ideal region is 25 to 70 for the average range of a 2-minute bar. All right, there we go. There's a nice little push. New highs there. Now, we got to keep an eye out here on this. Yeah, I know some bears are looking at that. We got to keep an eye on that. But if we can get a nice high close, roll over and a push up through there and remove any hope that the bears have of holding that ascending resistance, that becomes a beautiful setup for me. This is very much so an art of trying to find the scenarios where one side or the other is not feeling so hot in that very moment. All right, 15 seconds till the rollover of this bar. Come on, Bulls, give us a nice clean high close above the previous high of day. Bears wicking this back down. Here comes the rollover. Ugly, ugly. Yeah, that ATR is dipping now right hard against 25. I'd like to see that pick back up and get back up to 30 to 40. Rather than just continue to die off here into the day. We'll see if it can. Nice little pullback. Let's see if we can put in an ascending support. We really only have one touch point for the ascending support that I'd like to see get set. Again, you could argue this here. That's very aggressive. I'm not a fan of the very aggressive levels. They just tend to tempt break. So coming into the 20 on the 2, let's see if we can get that area more so holding. Alright, there's the test. What's up, Penguin? That is a 20 EMA here on the 2-minute chart. Now, really, here, let's take a look here. I'm very curious to see if this gets put in. That would have me very interested, but we would need to see a strong bounce up out of that hole, right? To really cement that third touch point. Yeah, Kings. I'm a big fan of volume weighted average price. Just less so a little bit on futures. It's still one of the greatest of all time. But I'm a huge fan of it on like small cap stocks, where I think it represents something a little bit more meaningful. Because in the futures market, volume is going to be a lot more consistent. Not to say you shouldn't use it. I just don't throw it up. At least, I don't know. Maybe in the future I'll throw it up for you guys. But I really, really don't like having messy charts. Gotta keep it clean. Looking for a bit more of a clean bounce here. I'd like to see this push up through 19.6, ideally. Honestly, more like 610. There we go. There's a bit better of a push. Let's get up through 19.6. 10 plus, maybe 615 plus. And then if we can see a nice pullback to that region, I would buy that. However, with these tighter channels, there needs to be enough room. However, with channel scalping, I am slightly more likely to manage early in a channel just because there's a little bit less room typically. But just for context. This is so slow here today. Richard, we're live, baby. We are live. But this market's kind of dead, huh? That can change. All it takes for me really is, at a minimum, 2 2-minute bars to shake things up. If you guys haven't yet, please leave a like on the stream. Helps out tremendously. Appreciate you doing so. All right, you guys see how that bounce on the last, it was somewhat of a test, right? You look here, top right of your screen, the 2-minute chart. It was close. It wasn't a true bounce, but it was close. We can make an adjustment if needed. Now, then we got a mushy bounce. Those mushy bounces are ugly. Okay, this is not a buy for me. Had that bounce pushed up through, notched even one tick of high of day, and then came in for the test, boom, I'm buying that ascending support inside of the channel. But this here, after a mushy bounce, it tends to tempt downside break, which, by the way, would be perfectly fine for me if it led to another downside continuation setup. And I don't care which setup it presents as long as it gives me something. Nice push downside through. Okay, now that 20 EMA on the 5 minutes at 19,540. All right, good, good. Here comes the rollover of this 2-minute bar. There's the rollover. Now let's see if we can get a nice low close, kind of down by like 19,535 or lower. Of course, not massively outsized though. Let's see if we could get that. That would be a setup for me. I'd have to take that entry. Come on, Bears. We got 50 seconds here to fix this. Let's get a nice push lower down toward 19,535. Get a nice clean close, and I would sell that rollover for a push. "25 seconds to clean this up." Yes, Richard, every single day. I'm live, 8:15 a.m. Central Time, every day. Well, here's a push. Doesn't look like we're gonna get enough though. I'll get ready just in case. Few seconds. Again, I would need to see lower than 535. Not there. There's the rollover. Same idea applies on the next bar. Let's see if we can get something. Pumple, isn't there another potential ascending support trend line starting from today's open? So what Pumple's looking at here is something like, actually, be better off drawing it here, wouldn't we? Something like this. Yep, that's why I'm looking for another bar as well. Okay, I want to see another bear bar closing near the low, and the bulls are trying to bounce off that level. I'm going to clean this up. I don't like having messy charts. And I will. I'll leave that there just for context for now. And we'll clean it up as soon as we can. What's up, crypto? Yeah, today's been a little bit, well, at least for me, today has been a little bit of a teaser. little bit of a teaser here today, seeing what else we can put together. Really hanging out around this trend line here. You know, honestly, for me, I'd like to see that break. That's my quickest path to a setup. I'm always thinking that what's the quickest path that would give me a setup? Not that saying that out loud does anything, but that's what I'm looking for ideally. That would be the quickest way to put on another trade here. Now, also, we have to mention, if you look here, I need to clear not only this trend line, but the 5-minute 20 EMA, which is right there, and the break-even point on the day. If we can clear all three of those, then I can put on a little short continuation. All right, there's the rollover. Now this bar here becomes very important to me. Might be something here for me. If we can get a nice low close. Making ideally all three of those things true. All right, here's the break-even point on the day. Here's the test. We've got 67 seconds until this rollover. All right, 43 seconds out. See if the bears structure a trade here for me. 30 seconds. There we go. There's a nice little push. All right, now bears, calm down a little bit. I don't want to see it become too outsized. We got 22 seconds. All right, 15 seconds. See if I can put this on. Bull's trying to wick it back up. There's a push downside. I'll give this a few seconds here. All right, there. And I will put that on there on that little bit of a pullback in. Okay, that was reasonably clean on the close. Gave it a few seconds, got a bit of a pullback, put it on. So I'm sitting short now. Average is 19,531 and a quarter. Stop up at 19,571 and a quarter. Take profit down at 19,491 and a quarter. Obviously 19.5, that's a tier 2 level. I know it's there, but not going to stop me from putting that on there. Break even on the trade right now. A couple points in the money, maybe. There's the retest of the 20 EMA on the 5-minute. Again, stop is up at 19,571 and a quarter. We've got room. All right, now the back test of this previous trend line is at 19,553, 19,554-ish. So we'll see if we get that test as well. ATR currently right about 24. Back to green on the trade. Break even. $10 points in the money. 15 points in the green. See if we can get a test of 19.5 and a little bit of a 9-point push through there to hit my target at 19.491. See if we can get that done. Yeah, and as it sits right now, we're about 15 points in the green. Bit of a bull wick back upside here. And wouldn't surprise me, by the way, if this trade took its time a little bit. Volatility's a little bit down. ATR is right kind of at 25, maybe actually a tad lower at this point. So we'll just manage this one as it comes. No plan right now to manage early though. However, that may change. Back to green on the trade. 5 points in the money. 10 points in the money. Again here, this trade not unlikely to take a little bit of extra time just based on that volatility right now, that ATR. But currently about 5 points in the green. Pretty much at the break-even point here. Let's see if we can break lower. All right, now ATR is pretty flat, actually. We're sitting right at about 23-ish. So again, no plan to manage early, at least yet. We'll see how this develops here. We're sitting about 10 points in the red now. Kind of making a retest of that 5-minute 20 EMA. Again, stop here is up at 19,571 and a quarter. Here's a test of the 20 EMA on the 2-minute chart. And this is kind of the back test of that previous trend line as well. Yeah, this trade's taking its time here. Volatility's a little bit down. It's okay. All right, stop here up at 19,571 and a quarter. Sitting about 15 points out from there. A little bit less. Let's see if we end up getting clipped out here. And this right here, this is now, if we extend this a little bit, kind of coming into a back test here. That would be just before our stop. It'd be tight. But that true back test is kind of right before our stop. Now, we're back above, obviously, the 20 on the 5. 20 EMA, that is, on the 5-minute chart. Bulls kind of sustaining this move upside here. They're trying to put in a little bullish continuation sequence. We'll see if they can. Again, I'm still in the trade. Nearing stop, though. A few points out from getting stopped here. Stop is highly probable. Kind of teasing those high 60s. Well, we made a back test of that trend line. Bear is able to at least pull it back a little. We'll see if the Bears can come in and save this one for me and kind of reject that continuation, or I should say reversal sequence out of the Bulls. Or if the Bulls are able to make another, if they make another retest of that trend line, that'll likely be a stop out here for me. So, take it as it comes. Right here, a test of the 5-minute 20 EMA. And back to the green on the trade, believe it or not. Volatility actually seems to be kind of holding here, which is good. Rather than fading the deeper we get into the day, which is more commonly the case, obviously. All right, green about 5 points on the trade so far. It's kind of a weird little zone we're in. Yeah, we're kind of right at that break-even point. Again, kind of a pain. Kind of a pain, but we'll see if we can get a nice push downside through there. Again, target for me here is down at 19,491 and a quarter. We'll see if I have to manage early. But ATR after that last bar crept back up above 25, so we'll see if I can maintain. All right, Nasdaq trying to go red here. That puts us 6 points in the money so far. Yeah, we're right at that break-even point on the Nasdaq, so gotta make a decision here. All right, we're about 10 points in the green. $15 points in the green. All right, let's see if we can get a downside test of that tier 2 level of 19,500. And then get a bit more of a push, about 9 more points down to target at 19,491. All right, 20 points in the money. It's volatile here. Yeah, just need to see about a 9-point break of 19.5, and that would hit us out. But it ain't over till it's over. All right, 26 points in the green. Here comes the test of 19.5. Let's see if we can get a nice little break in 19.5. Again, target, here's the test of 19.5. Target down at 19,491 and a quarter. Again, that 19.5, that's a tier 2 level, so I'm thinking about it. But it's not something that's going to make me manage early necessarily. By the way, potentially a few stops below 19.5. I wouldn't imagine there's a million. 25 points in the green here on the trade. Pulling back a little bit. Bulls trying to hold that 19.5 region. Currently about 8 points in the money here. Again, just need to see a downside push through 19.5. We've gotten a test, but not really a true test. Still just barely in the green here on the trade. Break even, tad red now. Here's the retest of the 20 EMA on the 5-minute chart. There's a Big bull attempted a push. Again, this trade kind of taking its time here as expected. At best, we've been about 30 points in the money on this trade. Similar, by the way, I think we were about 35 points in the red at one point, and then about 30 points in the money. So this trade taking advantage of the full range that I've given it. Break even on the trade right now. Scott, would you re-enter if this bar gives you a signal or add to the position? No, I'm going to leave this trade alone. Put it on, I'll leave this one alone, and if I have to manage early based on a volatility shift, I would. But right now, the volatility, the ATR is 27. So right now, the plan is to leave it be. Take each bar as it comes. So you guys see this, right? It looks to me as if we're developing a brand new descending channel. So let's see if the bears can get a nice small little early rejection here. Hold us below the 20 EMA on both the 5 and the 2-minute charts. And fade us downside to the bottom end of this channel. Maybe a slight push through to hit my target, and then I don't care what happens after that. But a lot of work to do on this trade here between now and then. We're only about 15 points in the red. All right, bears, come on, step in. We're seeing shrinking bull bodies. Not, honestly, a super strong performance out of the bulls, but they're picking it up here. Again, my stop on this trade is up at 19,571 and a quarter. Let's see if those bears can step in. All right, here we go. Another test of the upside. Again, at worst on this trade, we were about 35 points in the red. Best on this trade, we were about 30 points in the green. So we are all over the place here on this guy. But still in. Stop at 571 and a quarter. Putting this one on, letting it play out. All right, here we go. Getting near my stop within 7 points. Let's see if we get a push up through the 70s. Very close. Stop out highly probable here. All right, there we go. We'll take a stop there. That is our second losing trade of the day. Oh my God. No, that's okay. I think this is going to be our first, well, unless we get something else here that we can put on. I think this is our first red day on stream in weeks. I think it's been weeks, huh? I don't remember. But that's all right. We'll see what else the market gives us here. The market today, a little bit slow. Again, I'm not one to sit here. I think a lot of people that if they have a red day, they're like, oh, it's because the market did this. It's just been a little, I don't know, a little slow, a little wicky. That's okay. It is what it is. I just happen to be wrong twice in a row. But listen, honestly, both of those trades, I would put those on again. Were they my best trades ever? I like the second one maybe a little better than the first trade so far here today. But you know what? I'd put them both on again. They just happen to not work out here. So I'm not done necessarily. We'll keep seeing what we can get here. But this channel's clearly in a range. All right, and I am recognizing that. So we'll see what we can get as far as channel development. See, we're getting a nice little bull continuation, but today has been full of almost good setups that turn into ranges. You gotta be kind of careful. Again, recognize it as early as you can. All right, now news, we're pretty free and clear here again for the rest of the day. Earnings, Visa, Starbucks after the bell. It's really about it here for the rest of the day, so we're pretty clear. You know, even this 2-minute chart here, if you look up top, we're getting some good bodies, but a lot of wicks. A lot of wicks. I think today is the day to trade the trend. I'm sorry, trade the range. We've been within that break-even point of the day for most of today, really, which is interesting. Kind of sticking to that region. Bears are trying to create some kind of reversal sequence here. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we end up seeing a fade back downside here. This market's just going sideways, which makes it tough until something changes here for me to keep betting on continuation. Now, I've been doing so, well, let me think about this. Within the range, but on the outskirts of the range has been where I've been doing it. Now, actually, this one here, if we look at this look, I believe here was, yeah, entry was right about here in this bar, I believe. That had plenty of room. I mean, in hindsight, we bounced a little early, but really had plenty of room. I'd put both those guys on again. However, again, as we move through today, I am interested to see if we end up getting a slow grind in one direction or the other, or it's entirely possible we end up just trading low volatility sideways range bound the rest of the day. In either case, really, it makes it tough to take big breakout bets, which I'm not doing today either way, just based on the market inertia. Again, bottom of your screen, we're not seeing a breakout bet market. All right, I'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back, and the market did nothing, going sideways. So you can see here, clearly we're in a range-bound market, which, you know, I mean, it's interesting. It's not disappointing. It's not frustrating. It's just interesting, I think is the way to describe it. We'll see how this develops throughout the day. If you look at this 5-minute chart, I mean, especially. Right off the open, we got a little bit of a ladder up, and now we're just in a big, wide range. So I think looking forward here today, what I would really be looking for is I would be looking at channel scalps on the outside of this big wide range here on the 5 minute. Okay. And then little continuation if and only if we had room inside of that big range. Now, if this range breaks, then everything shifts instantly. But that's really kind of what I got my eye on here for the remainder of today. But if the market gives us something. How are you guys doing today? You performing all right? 2 trades for me here so far today. Both losers, which is okay. You know, listen, sometimes if you look at your data, let's say just keep the numbers easy. Let's say you have like a 1-to-1 reward to risk. Let's say your win rate is somewhere between like 55 and 70%. If you run that data and run the probabilities of having like, you know, two losers in a row or 3 losers in a row, it might be higher, that probability of having that, than you expect. Which means it's going to come. It's just a matter of time. So don't beat yourself up when it does. Zach down 50 points. Vinny flat so far. Rufio bunch of paper cuts but made 1 solid 50 pointer and up a small green. Christian 0 for 3 today but not worried, all part of the plan. That's right. Peter up 500 on Express. 3 trades. I adjusted with 1-to-1 reward to risk. 150, 20 points apart. Bo 2 winners, 2 losers. Little green but pretty much break even, which I'm okay with during a range day. Yeah, Chris, break even on the day. Mitts, red so far. Yeah, sounds like the same story with pretty much everybody here. Curious Skeptic, up 1R. Outperforming today. Jamie, 2 losers and 1 massive winner at the 955 mark. Day. Did you go long there or did you short that? That's a flat top forming, isn't it? You guys see that? Which is actually very interesting because if we look here, let's look top right of your screen. Look at this 2-minute chart. This has a very, very strong argument. However, this flat top also has a relatively strong argument. So we'll see what ends up occurring here. Kind of a meeting point. Interested to see who wins that. You know, these bulls, by the way, trying to hold that 20 EMA on the 5-minute. If you look here at the 5. Trying to hold that. Volatility coming in, by the way. We're now sitting in the low 20s on the average true range. There's a downside break through that 20 on the 5. That's good. Any larger bars today that are not on news are fine by me. It helps keep that ATR propped up. And tends, by the way, to encourage volatility on the following bars, which we need to see here today. I don't want things to die off. Look at this. You see this? 11 points away, 10 points away from the break-even point on the day. This market cannot make a decision today. I mean, still, we're just sticking to that 20 EMA on the 5. Break-even point is 11 points away at all times, seemingly. I gotta tell you, I'm surprised that the ATR is holding up in the 20s. I would think we'd be at about 17 right now. So the fact that that ATR is at 23 is actually pretty impressive here on a daily today. So, well, really, I mean, what I'm looking for here, if the market gives us something, I would love to clear that break-even point, or at least form a clean setup around it, meaning I'm really looking kind of at this 5 minute. You can see a very clear ascending potential support if we can get a nice bounce out of the hole here. However, you also have that wedge with a potential descending resistance, which is more clear on the 2 minute there. You can see that. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Omega, ATR is how many points it averages per bar? Yes, it is the average point range of a 2 minute bar based on the last 10 2-minute bars. All right, so those are basically the things that I'm looking for here as we continue through today. Listen, guys, if you're looking for daily payouts, which I just got an email confirmation while we were on stream that my daily payout that I requested from Take Profit Trader about 6 a.m. was ready to rock. Moved into the wallet. It's a beautiful thing. Obviously, Apex is great for scaling, but Take Profit Trader is wonderful for daily payouts. That is 30% off, no activation fee. Use code BIG, B-I-G. That goes for Apex and Take Profit Trader. That code will give you the best deal always. Whenever you use it, it'll always be the best deal. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to call it here today. We are into 11 o'clock territory. I'll head off, eat lunch, come back, see if there's anything worth taking here to finish out the day. All right, guys, I'll see you back here tomorrow morning, 8:15 a.m. Central Time. If you have not already, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you then. All right, guys, have a good one.